Good morning, my name is Nicole Andezabal, and today I will be presenting to you why microplastic pollution has negatively impacted the health of oysters along the Florida Gulf Coast over the last 25 years. First, let's start off with the basics. Oysters are a type of shellfish, and they are actually one of the engineers in our ecosystems. And the oyster that is native to Florida waters is called the Cresostria virginica. And the main reason this oyster helps with the Floridian waters is that it helps stabilize shorelines through their gills and labial palps, and this removes inorganic particles, which helps with water quality, and it puts more nutrients into the water. There's also the second part of this argument, which is the microplastic pollution. And as you've probably learned through the past presentations, here's kind of like a graph that explains the process of it, and it all starts, through our part, which is where we throw away all the plastics, and then the plastics go down to the water, and usually 50% of the plastics go down, and they turn into microplastics. And then that's where all the fishes and types of different sea animals are taking all of this, and then as it goes down, it's where a lot of the food web animals eat it, and that's where it spreads throughout the food chain. My first claim are oysters are unable to differentiate the small pieces of microplastic in food. So basically, microplastics, they are 5 millimeters or less, and this is making oysters very confused between the actual piece, the actual food that they eat, and the pieces of plastic. So this is an example of the different types of microplastics found in the waters, and here it says the oysters eat almost half of fibers and fragments, which is different parts of plastics, and this is from 3 different areas in the Tampa waters. And then the oysters, they're tricked into thinking that their mind basically makes them think that they're full because of the plastics that they've eaten, which makes them get sick, and they also get stuck in their gastrointestinal tract, and it leads to their guts, and it makes abrasions and lesions. And this also makes them think, since they think they're full, they're not getting the nutrients they need, which is causing a big problem to their survival. And then our second claim would be chemicals like DDT or PCBs are in the pieces of plastic that are being eaten, and this all comes from the food that they are eating. So this is a bunch of other types of chemicals, and then PETs and the PP chemical, they are almost more than half of the chemicals that are carried in the plastics, and these basically come from fabrics, electronics, or pieces of plastic, and this is causing a ripple effect as it goes through the food web. So it's not only just harming oysters, but it's harming the species that eat oysters or get everything from there. And then it's also causing a weaker immune system, and that is making the possibilities of diseases and infections become more open to them. This also is bringing hormones into their bodies, which is bad. And then for the counterclaim, I said that ocean acidification is weakening oyster shells. This is another issue that is harming oysters, but it's also a minimal issue. So here in the map, it's basically explaining the waters around this is the whole United States, obviously, but in the waters of Florida, here it says that around the year 2071 to 2099, it's when we will probably be most affected. So that doesn't really affect us right now in the moment, and if we bring more awareness to this, it can eventually not have issues anymore. But also right now, in comparison with the other states, we have a medium-low social vulnerability to it, so it's not like as big of an issue right now. And but although this is like not as big of an issue, this does harm their shells and it's weakening the oyster shells. And then the last claim is the pieces of microplastics are damaging oysters and their reproductive systems. This is all leads from the food that they're eating and the chemicals. And this is Amy Urin. She's a researcher that was interviewed by the NOAA. And she took this picture, and it's like a close-up of an oyster, and that is pieces of microplastic found in their gastrointestinal tract, and this is leading them to be scared for the population, because although this is right now just like a certain species that's decreasing, they are scared that this might lead to a whole population decrease. And this also has caused them to experience smaller amounts of eggs, and their sperm was less motile. In conclusion, there's different types of solutions, as in reusing and recycling, and having more trash bins and stuff around the areas to throw away the trash that does not need to be in the waters. And there's also the most common restoration program is the Florida Oyster Restoration Program, which is bringing a lot of awareness, especially in the Tampa area, that to help oysters. The only problem is that people often don't think that oysters are such a big problem, so they don't really care for it. And also, the pieces of microplastics are so small to clean that it's already too late to fix. So bringing this awareness will definitely be needed, so this will no longer be happening in the future. Thank you. What are your questions?
First question, what information did you need before you began your research?
I had a lot of problems with my research because I went through 3 different questions, but after finally finding something, I had to first find out what microplastic pollution was, and then I also had to find out the effects of oysters and what has been affecting them the most, because there's a bunch of different shellfish, but oysters are one of the species that have been most affected by it.
Okay, and then explain what level of certainty you are about your solution.
Honestly, I think it's a good solution, but it definitely needs more awareness so people can actually know that this is a big issue, because people don't realize that oysters are one of the biggest engineers in our ecosystem. And yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, done.